Right, Sanbanani Dumelang Molweni Mzansi Africa, and welcome to your #1 youth show in the land, Expressions it is. Well, following a spike of suspected food poisoning among children in many parts of the country, as Expressions, we put a spotlight on spaza shops and school vendors after allegations of selling of expired foods emerged. A grade 3 learner from Unkgopotse Primary School in Rotterport unfortunately passed away, allegedly Mbugeli due to food poisoning. The boy and another learner in his grade actually complained of stomach cramps and were rushed to the clinic. It is indeed a somber moment. Sililizwe lomzansi Africa. Njimlo ukholosaka lubisi uMahlongoti.
Koskakhulu Mahlongoti ngacho Mzansi Africa, and of course I am your host Oliya Mavumisa. Great to have you with us right here ohlelweni Expressions. And now in the same month, 2 boys died in South Deep, West Rand, allegedly from poisoned snacks bought from an informal trader at a taxi rank. Police are still investigating the causes of death for all 4 boys, but the incidents have sparked a community outrage and led to calls for food safety inspections to be really stepped up. Now, this week on Expressions, we are asking you, Mbugeli Lapekaya, whose role is it perhaps to check what children are buying in spaza shops and from school vendors? Let's listen to what parents had to say about this.
Ngingabona ama-video circulator uthi ama-product abekho legit yabo mara akusinto engiyinakayo mabangithuma ngithenga khona.
If you are not aware, you cannot see ukuthi i-date isusiwe, and there's a new stamp. The stamp yasibona ukuthi it's not an original stamp from the manufacturers.
Bona kulinye side ne ba right mara kulinye side ba wrong.
Ho tlameha go checkwe di-date tsa dijo rona di right. Ke phetho ke tutse expirile ndi tlameha di ntshiwe di lahliwe.
Bona bathatha into ye-5 rand bayithengise 250 ngoba bafuna ukuzuza thina sifele.
Thola umntwana nje abuzele useyaqhubuka or okanye useyabuyisa so uyagaba
ngoba singeke sithatha imithetho sifakaza zethu. I-government fanele iyingenelele ibona ukuthi yenzani ngabo.
Zi-cheap mfethu azisisi. That's why ngithi bona basibulala cause vele azenzeki.
Kanako asolo bandili cheap hakaka. Ba close le bona. Oba ke re ba bisa bo my friend.
Singabaxoshi kanti sizohluleka ukuma nathi. And okubuhlungu basemajardini ethu.
It's the closest. Yeah, convenient. Yeah, it's convenient. Then ubuye ema-shop right izinto yabo ngoba amamola kude njalo.
Well, interesting views there from the people on the street really commenting about today's topic. But of course, to help me unpack this a little bit further, I have Milifil Yun from the Provincial Consumer Council in Gauteng. And of course, also joining us is MMC for Health and Social Development at the City of Johannesburg, Umama Emi Makofola. Ladies, thanks for joining us and welcome to Expressions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think let me start with you, Millie, or perhaps let me start with you, Emi. Just as a matter of principle, what is the role of health and social development in the city, particularly when it concerns this issue?
Thank you very much. So with the health side, the Department of Health, so ours is to do inspections, food inspections in your spaza shops, your factories where they manufacture the food, and do also inspections also at schools or local spaza shops. So ours is to do inspections and make sure that people do comply with the rules and laws.
All right, we shall extend the conversation, particularly with inspections. But Millie, from your side now, representing the Consumer Council here in Gauteng, what is your role and where do you factor in this situation?
Yeah, well, thank you. The Gauteng Office of Consumer Affairs, our role is largely to protect the consumers, to protect their rights, basically to promote their rights, to educate them and know what their rights are, and to protect their rights. Now, in terms of protection of their rights is that particularly if there are complaints with regards to the goods that they purchase from their spaza shops, you know, any of such complaints is then lodged with our office relating to the goods and the actual transactions in terms of receipts and so forth. Lodge that matters with us, and then we will then investigate it. But we also play a role with the hand of EHPs, where we work very closely with the environmental health practitioners across the province, for example, where we do this compliance inspections, where we look at certain things of contravention of our legislation, and they look at contraventions of their legislation to be complementary.
Okay. All right. All right. MMC, you spoke about inspections that are happening that you conduct as a health and social development. But perhaps one may beg to differ and say, isn't it a bit too difficult to micromanage all the spaza shops in the whole of Gauteng? Yeah.
Rightfully so, you mentioned it rightfully. I think she also mentioned it like we don't work in silos, so we work together, even with themselves. So we work together. So it's the health side, not the social development side. Okay. So with the social development side, as you had said, in the city of Johannesburg, we have over 3,000 spaza shops that we currently have to do inspections of. With the limited resources that we get from our environmental healthcare practitioners, we have to make sure that we do inspections. Mind you, it's not only inspection in spaza shops, but also in big shops like you, Checkers, your spas, and everywhere, and all other shops. But
and I wonder, what has been the feedback with those inspections, and do you think you are effectively and efficiently doing those inspections currently?
Yes, currently I can say we are effectively doing them, but I must indicate that the number of people that we have currently on the ground, meaning your EHPs, are not enough to compensate the population that we have in the city of Johannesburg. So we would have loved to have more environmental health.
But who should then come up with those more people?
It's ourselves together with the Department of Health.
So meaning it's a bad thing on your side as the department?
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing because remember, our population is ever growing. So each and every time or every day, we have people who are actually coming into Johannesburg, especially Johannesburg being one of the cities in Africa, actually, where people want to come and due to work-related things or due to investments or summer entrepreneurs. So we have an ongoing population. So we can't say by the time we were planning to have this number of environmental healthcare practitioners, remember we also have to look at the budget. Does the budget allow us to hire more environmental health practitioners?
I think the question that should be asked then is perhaps to even begin with, is there a budget particularly catered for such instances of inspecting spaza shops?
Currently, we do have positions, but we have unfunded positions. So currently we can't hire any more environmental healthcare practitioners as it stands in the city of Johannesburg due to budget.
Let me get to you, Millie. You mentioned something that consumers lodge complaints with you. I wonder, has any complaint related to these food poisonings that we see making the rounds on social media and even on traditional media, have they come across to your council?
Look, yes, we've received a few, but really it's really literally a few cases. The majority of our cases, remember, consumer protection spread across all sorts of industry, from motor industries, insurance industries, retail, fast-moving goods, like in this case with tuck shops. We received the odd cases that we received, especially during the COVID situation where there was cases of formula, suspected poisoning of baby formula. So we received those cases. And then we worked also, like we say, we work closely with the environmental health so that they can do the testing for us. Because they do have the facilities, the national health laboratories, as well as, have some funding at least to provide the testing so that we can test whether the product was actually safe or not safe.
But let me ask this question. So if you're saying you work hand in hand with the department, someone may beg to differ and probably say that where's the autonomy then in being able to govern and even safeguard consumers' rights because you are working hand in hand with the department? Maybe some may say you favor them in some instances.
No. When we say work hand in hand, it's basically when we do inspections, it's a multi-stakeholder, it's a plenary stakeholder approach where we involve different stakeholders with different legislation to impose their specific legislation. So we have the Consumer Protection Act and the Unfair Business Practice Act of the province, and we strictly enforce that legislation. So the same with the EHPs. Then we have National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications. We have, Department of Agriculture in terms of meat safety. So they then make sure that their legislation are strictly adhered to, because there is pockets of non-compliance. But if we go in and we go in as basically as a multi-stakeholder compliance inspection, we'll be able to pick where the non-compliances are.
Okay, quite an extensive job you do there. Kudos for that. Now, MMC, perhaps I think this is a question that all the viewers at home would perhaps want to know. Do you take responsibility as the department for the staggering numbers of children that, get food poisoning and in some instances, unfortunately, lose their lives?
I would say currently, up to today, all the cases that we have got, especially in the city, I'll speak for the city of Joburg because that's where I'm stationed. Yeah. We have actually run tests. And funny enough, for those cases that we've actually been seen ongoing for the past few weeks, the results have came back and some of them are negative. So I wouldn't say, it clearly proves that it was not from the food that we had tested. Yeah. So we did run tests on those snacks or any product that they said the children have consumed, but some of the results came back negative. So I wouldn't say it's we have ourselves to put the blame on, because from our side we did our part.
Unfortunately, I have to go to an ad break, but I do understand where you're coming from. I think the gist of my question was to just say that probably if you had inspectors at those spaza shops, you wouldn't have even gotten to this point, because you've only now started to act because you see that there's numbers and it may have a bad image on the department. But I'll give you a chance to respond. I just have to quickly go to an ad break. We'll stay with us. This is Expressions.
Batho ba sekolo ya baitswa a ba tla reka ka monte ba rekisa dijo rekisa di sweets
e problem e one thina seyisa izinto za right two rand akuna complain bala ntengisa
awuna ngwana wa kilashwa mo sekolong lo ka buisa di principal never awuna ngwana la kilashwa ka mo sekolong
banye matitjara manje basebenza
ye ke 2 rand la ya shota ne fitati why you talking about bana no baba something is wrong
akuna umuntu angathi ama-complain ukuthi umntana wakhe uyagula ukuthi uthenga izinto zathina akukho lo
bamaspaza abantu ureksida bathu lo ta expiry date ntothe problem ke expiry date santo ro reka ntho go shoponi uyishebe you must read uyishebe of date here because ba sinyela tjale ba bangwe ntho ena yezi ke everybody akere ka to fela tjaba le rona rekisa ka monte go rekisa lo just right.
Interesting views on the ground coming from Abantu Abadala. Welcome back. You are still watching Expressions. Of course, we are talking about, the issue of spaza shops and school vendors. Who's responsible? Who should we blame? Who should check what children are buying in these spaza shops? And joining us to help us unpack, we have the General Secretary of the National Association of School Governing Bodies, Matakanye. Before we go to the break, let's hear from Ritabile Mkhotsi from COSAS. But before we do that, Mukeli, welcome to the show. Tata kunjani? Ngiyaphila. Just reacting from Omama on the ground. We have Omama sharing her story that, she started selling since 1993, and we haven't really had these cases before. Now that kwenzeke izinto, one is wondering, what is really happening? Where are we missing it?
We want to send our deepest heartfelt condolences to our children who passed on because of eating poison. And we are saying sorry to those who survived. And say good luck to those who are writing exam. We know that you started writing exam in difficult conditions because these children who were poisoned, children who died, are your classmates. So you were writing, but concentrate on your exam. And just want to say sorry under the watchful eye of your parents. Now, coming back to the question is that we, as school governing bodies, we have got responsibility to ensure that what is sold in schools is nutritional to our children. And then vendors who sell in schools are getting into contract with the schools. And then they are told what to sell in the schools. And if they don't do what the contract dictates to them, then the door is opened. That's one part. But another part is people who are selling outside the school premises. En route to school, outside the school, and that is not the responsibility of the school governing board. That is the responsibility of local government. And because it is now linking with the spaza shop from the township. I mean, people will say, no, we are also responsible outside the school yard. We say, no, we are not responsible outside the school yard. The school yard, the local government must ensure that, I think the local government does have the bylaws. And those bylaws do not only stop in the school. They stop at the gate of the school, back to wherever they end.
And speaking of laws, Tata, I mean, prior to this interview, you said that, I mean, the health and social development should be held accountable. And we have the MMC on the desk. I mean, she said it herself that they are ticking all the boxes. What do you have to say about that?
No, they should not tick the boxes. I think they've got legislations. They must apply legislations. Time is now. I mean, you can't have children dying all over the country. I think if I knew, I would bring the statistics. Yeah. This thing started in Gauteng, in Soshangube, if you remember, 90 children affected. Mm. Those boys are in court as we speak. And they seem to be South Africans. But the challenge now is the Home Affairs, whether to see to eat, those are South Africans. I mean, you are just saying, this person said, I started selling 1993. There's never been this type of incidents. There's never been incidents. So these people who have got the plan now is working to destroy why it's affecting only our children, particularly in primary schools. That's the plan, to say, let's destroy South Africa. They are destroying South Africa. So we're saying, government, stand up. Stand up and then the local government in particular, we are saying, apply the bylaws. Why are you applying the bylaws at the shopping centers? Shopping centers, there are vendors around the shopping center. You'll see some traffic cops coming there.
Surely on the desk, Maya Sivatata, and they will address this issue because it comes at a time when children are writing their exams. Thank you so much. We wish we could continue with this conversation, but let's take a quick commercial break. What do you have to say when Ambugeli Apekaya? Make sure that you do interact with us on our social media platforms. For now, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. You are watching Expressions.
Welcome back. You're still watching Expressions right here on SABC 1. Thanks very much for staying with us as we continue to have this really pertinent discussion about spaza shops and also school vendors. And the MMC of Health and Social Development is still joining me. And of course, also Millie is from the Provincial Consumer Council in Gauteng. So before the break, MMC, I did speak that the gist of my question was just centering the fact that, because you also alluded to the fact that you don't have budget for this particular inspection action that needs to be done. So therefore, if you do not have the budget, how is it possible that you could have been inspecting the entire time? Or is it just a matter of, because now you've seen the numbers that are staggering, only now you decide to act?
So I think, let me first correct that the issue of the budget comes with regards to putting more efforts or stepping up capacity that we already have.
Okay.
So we already have food inspectors in all our regions. But I'm saying...
But are they doing enough?
They are doing enough, but with the population that we currently have in the city of Johannesburg, it's growing, it's ongoing and ongoing. So for us to be able to reach to that, we would have loved to have more capacity in order for us to avoid such incidents.
But can you confidently say to the viewers that you're working on also employing more people now?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We're definitely working on that, and we're definitely doing the inspections day in, day out, every day. So it's an everyday thing.
Okay. Quickly, what's the update on the post-mortem or the lab results pertaining to the food poisoning?
So with the Naledi issue, so the results came back negative from organophosphate. So it actually from the lab tests that we took on the items that were in the spaza shop, that definitely it says
Negative.
not, yes.
So there's no food poisoning there?
From those products, yes.
From those products.
Correct.
All right. I think we'll have to have a conversation.
Yes.
Quickly, Millie, because I'm running out of time here. So whose role is it to check what children are eating? Just briefly.
I think it's all of government's role, from national to provincial to local. And that is why the Premier made provision for the establishment of the Food Safety Forum. And that Food Safety Forum needs to intensify their role in terms of, one, education, the whole issue of cross-contamination, you know, the health education, general hygiene. So that kind of education, the education, consumer rights. What are my rights as a consumer? And then have the stick also parallel to that, with the education, the compliance, and making sure that we actually do enforce this law so that we can actually hold people accountable.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, ladies have run out of time, but thanks very much for joining us on the show today.
Thank
Well,
you.
there you have it, Mbogile Expressions. Now, Kolo, I mean, it's a very important conversation that we're having because, like I said, children have died from food poisoning, but I guess we shall continue and do a follow-up on this.
Oh, yes, we leave you with Lindani in the Lentela.
Get